Mute yourself. I actually want you to interact with me and tell me if I'm going on and you either don't understand or you don't, go along with what I say. I want you to talk to me here. Okay. So, the very first thing I want to talk about, because I think it's a really important subject, is conflict resolution. I know that doesn't sound like Tarsa Mishpacha, but if you're not getting along, you're not going into the bedroom. So, as a Kallah teacher, I do think it's important, since we are the first people that parents turn to with their children to get married and educate them about this aspect of life. I do believe that conflict teaching a Kallah, and it certainly should be done for the chassan as well, how to go about and have a structure to resolve a conflict, because soon after the infatuation period, dies down and something comes up, they're going to start fighting. And they don't know how to repair. Why? Because they're coming from two different families of origin. They learned a lot of things in those homes. And as a result of that, they've built up defense mechanisms that are the way that they're going to go about, figuring out how to, heal the conflict. So it doesn't work. And what happens is, in my profession here, I'm a sex and relationship coach. What I see is that they get stuck in a lot of looping and spiraling, sort of like two kids in a sandbox throwing sand at each other, and nothing ever really gets resolved. So, um, so this is what I think that would be a good thing to incorporate into your training with the Kallah. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I haven't said anything really. I'm just throwing out the idea. What do you think about um, delving into this subject with the Kallah? Like how, what is her perception of this guy that she's going to marry, and like, what does she think? Have they gotten into any kinds of, conflicts or anything like that? And like, do you think that that's a good thing to bring up, or it's not a good thing to bring up because they're getting married, and who wants to talk about anything but the dress and the makeup and the wig and the band and all that other superficial stuff, not anything that Tachlis really going to go on in about 2 months from now? Yeah.
Totally. I've been bringing it up I've been teaching for about a decade. This is one of and I also am an educator for Shalom Task Force. So I
Okay.
present their engagement class. So I actually really do my best to incorporate some of those lessons into the Kala classes. Um, Communication is a big thing. I actually do like role play with the girls, and they think it's just like ridiculous, like Erev Shabbos or Erev like Pesach. And like one person is just like really like looking for any last minute thing, and the other person's like, oh, I just want to like go into Yom Tov like in the spirit. But it's so interesting because like I was thinking about this earlier, is families of origin and the way we grow up really impacts our expectations of what our reality is going to be. And sometimes that can get in the way, and that can create conflict in its own if we're not introspective.
So I want to give this over to you because did you ever hear of Rabbi Shimon Kessin? Do you know who?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So he's like my teacher. And so he's a psychotherapist. Okay. And he has a method that I would like to give over, which is actually, like I said, a structure that you'd be able to give her to recognize what she's looking at when she sees the response in him over whatever it is, and then what to do about that. Okay, so I'm gonna try. I hope I don't butcher it, but I'm gonna really try to give this over. Okay,
Awesome.
so I know that we all know that Adam Harishon and Chava didn't do too well, and as a result of what happened there, instead of walking into Olam Haba at 20 years old, there we have to deal with childhood. Okay, we're all born. Okay, we're not derived 20 years old. So childhood is a big deal, and it's very misunderstood. And this isn't a parenting course, but it's like I think that if she could get the idea of what she's actually looking at and why he's responding the way he is, then I'll go into further, like what's the difference between speaking aggressively and speaking assertively. Okay,
Mm.
because that's really the key to healing the conflict. So because we have childhood, you have to figure, now here's a couple of terms that sound really, big words, but what happens is the amygdala, which is the part of the brain which is the most responsible for our automatic pilot, our fight or flight, and is the actual storage center of all of the memories that we have, is the most active part of the brain when a child is born. Okay, so why is it like that? Because it has to protect the organism from danger. So it's constantly on the scan for the environment, and it tracks and takes down everything about the mother, who's the primary caretaker of the child. That's the first attachment, obviously, that we have is to the mother. So it also, memorizes everything. The child memorizes facial expressions, everything, tastes, everything it feels, everything it thinks. Now, what happens at around 2 years old, when the mother has to begin disciplining the child, which is a pretty hard thing to do, for a parent. And unfortunately, even though there's nowadays there's more courses being given out to parents, it wasn't always so. And what happens is when the mother has to say no to the child doesn't really understand, well, does that mean no, you don't like me, or no, I can't have the cookie? Especially if it's done like offhanded and, if she's in a bad mood or she's got a lot of other stuff going on or there's other kids going, in the family. So what's happening to this kid is that shame has just been incorporated into the personality of the baby. So having been shamed as a child, what the child does is it develops defense mechanisms and coping mechanisms to have to deal with the environment. And so the child at this point learns how to defend itself through anger, through guilt, through rage, temper tantrums. And this behavior is incorporated into the child early on as a default memory program that goes and it gets stored into this amygdala. Okay. So I'm assuming at around 12, 13 years old, the prefrontal cortex is the next part of the brain. It's called the adult part of the brain, um, comes into function, which this part of the brain is there to override the child and the defense mechanism. So there's this dynamic that's set up now between the two parts of the brain where the child will resort to the default program that it learned in the childhood. And now the adult will take over through reasoning and logic and what have you. There's also at the edge of logic, you have your bitachon and your faith and what have you over there, your belief systems. But this is all coming from the adult part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. So why is any of this really important? Because the moment that you are interacting, the moment you're into interacting with another human being, your defense mechanisms are going to get set into motion. And once your defense mechanisms get set into motion, the person who is witnessing this does not know what they're looking at. They think it's them. And you actually think you're talking to an adult, but you're not. You're talking to the default program that's on automatic pilot in the child. And we do everything in this world by automatic pilot mostly. I mean, you drive to work and you don't know how you got there. You didn't get in the car going, oh, I'm now going to turn right. I'm going to turn left. I'm going to step on the brake. All of everything we do is on automatic pilot, learned here, and all of the motor skills learned here at the childhood development and gone into the amygdala in the unconscious part of the mind we don't have access to. That's where all of our memories are probably of other lifetimes. Everything is in this amygdala situation. Okay, so now we have the Kallah and the Chassan, they get married, and they're like full of, love and expectation and what have you. And now they come up with some sort of a situation and they don't know what to do about it. The first thing that comes up is, oh my God, I shouldn't have married this person. Why did I marry this? I'm seeing something for the first time that I didn't see before. And what am I supposed to do with that? So you need to warn her that this is likely to occur and that this is what she's looking at. And so what does she do now? Now they've had their, let's say, their first major fight. So the most important thing to remember here is that her adrenaline and her cortisol levels as a result of this argument is now being sent out into her system, and she's going into fight or flight, or you have fawn also, where you don't move or do anything. But she's probably shaking or her heart's beating quickly and what have you. She's threatened and she's engaged and she's triggered. And so is he. And so now anything that goes on between them is going to be like two children fighting with each other, because she's going to bring up all the ways she, in her family of origin, learned how to deal with the impossible situation of living in an environment she couldn't control. And he is doing the same thing. So how do you get these guys out of the situation? So somebody's got to become the adult here. Okay. And most normal people are 20% children and 80% adult. Where it gets tricky with mental illness is that the child percentage rises and the adult drops. So, but let's just talk about normal people. Okay. So if she says, or nobody walks out and slams the door, if she says, I need a few minutes, I need to compose myself, I'll be right back. And she must come back. She can't walk out and take off and end the marriage. You know what I mean? She'll take a few minutes to herself. She'll go in a room. And instead of thinking herself out of this situation, she needs to feel the flood of the adrenaline and the cortisol and the hormones that are going through her body without the thought process of what went on, the dynamic that went on in the fight. Because if you keep that up, you're just going to keep sending the adrenaline and everything. You're going to keep it all rolling. And you didn't do anything by taking the space to sit by yourself. Okay, so what you want to do is remember that the priority here is you, and making yourself and getting yourself back to baseline where you go internal. You don't think about what he said, she said, what I should have said, what's going to resolve the argument. You go into the state of feeling and you feel the emotions that you feel. You could ask, well, how big is it? Where is it? Where do I feel this? Is it my head? Is it my chest? Is it my neck? Like, do the work and sit there with the emotions. We're all from people. We understand the Yetzer Hara. We all understand the negativity aspect of being, activated, and we know what's going on here. So if you don't sit with that and let it dissipate, it's going to go somewhere in your body. It's going to go, it could go, where do you think sickness comes from? It's allowing this rush of energy to find a place in our body to maintain itself, as opposed to letting it move through and out and letting it go someplace else. And the only way out of this is to actually feel it, give it its due, and not think about it, which is it's critical not to think. So, do you want to say something? Anything? Anybody want to say anything at this point? What do you think? Rifki, since you studied this, what do you think of this idea? Rifki? Yes. So tell me
This is
what,
yeah, is it called EFT, that
no,
concept?
no, it's
It's
nothing. It's nothing. It's not cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's not behavioral modification therapy. It is his incorporation of behavioral modification therapy. I have over here, I wanted to show you guys. This is called the model. Okay, this model here was invented by this woman, Brooke Castile, many years ago. She teaches, when I became a life coach, I learned this method, and you probably saw this model here. So on this side here, what we have is the circumstance, which is usually neutral, which will generate a thought about the circumstance that will generate the feeling that you'll have, which will produce an action, yes or no. You'll either may have an action or you'll be stuck, which will create the result. This is cognitive behavioral therapy. This was invented by Freud a long time ago, and it's dealing with it moving in this direction. Behavioral modification therapy, which is more like what I was just telling you, is taking the result, which is the behavior, which is the arguing, the unwanted result, and taking an action. Yeah, which is the feel, which is then going to create the feelings that you're going to deal with, and then you'll change the thoughts, which are when you're thinking thoughts constantly, you generate a belief system. You know, every belief we have has been thought into existence because we think it many times. So if we don't want that thought, we have to learn how to change it. So this is like a whole different dynamic here. But in addition to what I gave you about the removing yourself from the environment. So I want to go back to that for a second. So let's just say she calms herself down and she's not shaking and she's not, whatever, processing the emotion that's going on there. And she's able to go back out to him now and say to him in an assertive tone, I thought about what I said. There's a lot of things that I said that using I sentences. I don't really like how I express myself. I would appreciate if you could be more respectful when you speak to me. I think I would understand better. I really do want to fix this and I do want to discuss it. And like as opposed to this with the mother, because that's going to just bring up the shame aspect of it. Yes? Yeah. I see we have somebody else here, Rachel Duskis. Are you here, Rachel? No, her picture's here. And Devora, you still here? Don't know where everybody is. Okay.
No, I'm here. I'm just on mute because my house is flying, but I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm following along.
Okay. Do you have anything to say? Do you want to
Thanks.
say anything about that? Do you go along?
Um, no, I agree. I agree with that completely. I really like the I statements. I think it's
Yes.
very important. Yes,
And
yes.
because if you go back out there aggressively,
Right,
telling him
right,
what's wrong and going at him again, you're just going to bring up the defense mechanisms again. The
right.
whole idea
Exactly.
is to intercept and recognize when the person is triggered, and that inadvertently, not to blame yourself, but inadvertently, you actually caused it.
Right,
Because had you not done that, you wouldn't be seeing what you're seeing, but nobody wants to take any responsibility for that because they're always right.
right.
All that matters is that you're right.
Yeah,
But what happens is you both lose. You can't fix it. There's resentment, which is going to be the questions about the sex that I'm going to bring up here. How, how this just creates such instability in the marriage if you can't get to resolving your arguments. We're not going to, you know, get along with this person all the time. We have to be able to fight with this person and move through it and make decisions. It's an important aspect that has to be put into the Kallah training, in short. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears here. Yes, and I want to discuss. As I said, I'm a sex and relationship coach, and I'm also a college teacher. I've been a college teacher for 40 years. And it's been my experience with couples, because I do see couples together. I speak to men as well as women. It seems to me that neither of them are adequately prepared for the wedding night. I'm sorry. I just really don't see that. And I want to discuss, let's say, my version of preparation for the Kallah, at least. I can't do it for the Chassan, but for the Kallah. And I also want to speak about the four questions I get asked most of the time in my profession. And I do believe that you need to discuss this with your Kallahs clearly, explicitly, and directly. And the first one is orgasm. They don't know what it is. They don't know how to have it. They don't know what it is. They don't know who's responsible for them to have it. They have never, they have had just recently a lot of interaction with their body down there because they had a check. That's probably, besides a tampon, is the most interaction they've had with their body. Okay, and I don't want to get into a hashkafic uh, debate whether it's okay for a woman to touch herself. I'm not saying with a vibrator. I did not say that. I do not agree with that. But I do believe that a woman needs to familiarize herself with her organs internally and understand where everything is. And they do not know where stuff is. I guarantee you this. So I have a vagina, a small vagina that I show to them. And I teach them where the clitoris is. And this is a very important organ down there, because why? This organ does nothing other than give the woman pleasure. So if God wanted it to do something else, not only would he have not have put it here, but he would have made another function. At conception, the Y chromosome and the X chromosome split in a male and a female. One became a penis and one became a clitoris. And the clitoris is a nerve that goes through the entire vulva. It's huge, okay? And below the clitoris, we have the urethra, where we urinate from. And here we have the vaginal opening, okay? I suggest that you have her look down there and touch this area down there in a different way other than putting a cloth up there. Why? Because we're expecting this guy who has absolutely no mastery over his own body to now have mastery over a woman's body. Where from? He's not going to get this from who is he going to get this from? His father? I don't think so. The Hassan teacher? Not likely. So a woman has to actually be a bit more familiar with what makes her feel good and be able to give this over in a very, comforting way to her husband, not in the bedroom. I don't suggest doing this in the bedroom, but she needs to be able to explain these things to him. So that's one thing I want to tell you about that. Comments? Anybody? No, you don't think that's a good idea? What, Rifki, since you're the only one I see.
A lot, no pressure. I'm just curious, the couples who come to you most, what's their background?
They are yeshiva couples, kollel couples. Yeah, I
Okay.
get young kollel couples. I get married couples that are between, I'd say, 7 and 25 years of marriage. So, and it is Hasidim also, and it's
Okay.
the full spectrum. Lakewood, I have it all. This is not because they're all off the derech. This is not another Michigas from somebody who's not from. This is definitely what I see. I've had them in my office here on the floor, clothed, and I've watched what's going on, and I'm shocked that they are still in the situation 3 months after they're married, and he's still falling out. Yes,
Wow.
why is that? Now, when you sit there and you look at what's going on there, it's very easy to see because he's a big boy, she's little. Where he's locating himself to begin this is just, there's no strategy at all. There's nothing being taught to these kids other than go figure it out. It'll be fine. We all did. You do it also. They're not. And what they're doing is they're looking on the internet and they're going on porn sites. And that is because they don't have the role models to turn to. And that is what I do this for, because if you can get secure enough to be able to teach this to other Kallah teachers. And so it'll go. And Chassan teachers, I don't know how the heck a guy teaches another guy about a woman's body. It's like, where did you don't even have that. It's like a brain doctor teaching a dentist. It's like, what is that? This whole system is got to get a little bit more progressive. And I really do think it's important that she takes responsibility and knows several of these things that I'm going to tell you because they don't know. They literally don't know this. It takes a man, an average, once he gets going, I don't have to tell you you're married, 4.5 minutes. She's like coming in cold and it's going to take at least 20 to 40 minutes to get her going. How is that work? That doesn't work. Unless you teach her to massage the area and bring blood flow. I didn't say she should bring herself to have an orgasm on her own, certainly if she's got her husband out there. But in order to get her arousal and her desire up a bit to where she's actually somewhat on the same page as him, to at least be able to have a manual orgasm from him. I'm not saying that she's going to have a penetrative orgasm from him, which I will teach you how to teach her how to do. She's not going to get satisfied and wonder, what am I doing here? I don't like this. I go through all this just to go to the mikveh for what? I don't want to go to the mikveh. I don't like this. What's in this for me? There's reasons for that. And I think that if she could have more enjoyment out of being together with her husband, she loves him, but she doesn't know what to do with him, and he doesn't know what to do with her. So the first thing I want to show you is coconut
Can I
oil.
interrupt you for a second?
Say it again?
Would that be okay? Would it be okay if I interrupt you for a second?
Of course.
The diagram, or not the diagram, but the model, the vagina model, where did you buy that?
I will send, I can't, my administrative assistant sitting right here, she will send you the link to riff
Okay.
on. Maybe Devar will want it also. I don't know what
I
happened.
think Rockwell might also be interested. It's a really beautiful rendition.
It's perfect. And you know something, I didn't know this, but it pops out.
Well, that's so
I know, it's
fascinating. Wow.
It's like a chicken bone.
Wow.
And it just,
yeah,
it's,
because it shows her it's not just on the outside, it's also in the inside, right?
yes, yes. This is the little, all right, now watch, I can't get it back in. Oh, here, now it goes in. See? Right here. And what you want to teach her how to do is to massage this area around here so that she could bring blood flow. I'm sorry, it's like a penis. You have to stimulate it. What does he do, the guy? He sits there and goes like this. He figures he finds it and he's rubbing it and it starts to hurt. He keeps going at it for 45 minutes and it's like, well, put it in already. Let's just get this over with. I'm telling, we have to teach her how to get a bit more stimulated before she goes into the situation again. So here's this. Now I know somebody's going to complain about it because it's coconut oil. Maybe somebody has a peanut allergy, but I have not heard that. This stuff here comes in a liquid form and it comes in a congealed form. You can get it in Publix. I don't know, Super Farm. I don't know where you guys live. Oh, you said in Los Angeles. I think you have Publix there. You have ShopRite. You have ShopRite there, right? In California.
Yeah, shop right in Brooklyn.
Yeah, you'll have, this is edible coconut oil. And why is this better? KY jelly is a lubricant also. It's a water-based and it tastes terrible. And I don't want to get into the oral sex yes or no conflict. Okay, I can't. I teach what you need to know. You ask your rabbis what you think, how you want to take care of all this stuff. But this stuff here stays oily. It doesn't have any taste at all. It doesn't even taste like coconut at all. And it stays oily. And so you can massage each other. You can use it. It's perfect. It's perfect for the night of the wedding. You tell her to bring this with her. This will save her life. Okay. So, so the night of the wedding. Okay, so I'm telling you, he does not know what he's doing. He doesn't. He thinks he knows, so he tries to stabilize himself on either side of her. His knees are far, way too far up close to her. And what does he do? He removes one arm to place himself in this area. He knows nothing where this could be anywhere. He doesn't know what he's even looking for. Take the responsibility out of his hands. Okay, let him stay stabilized and tell her to take him in her hand and with the coconut oil and what have you, and let her ever so slightly put him in. She won't get ripped up all over the place from his force going in so quickly. She could do it a little at a time. And especially if she has the coconut oil on. It's like what's going on is that this isn't being explained carefully enough to her. She needs to protect herself from this. He needs cognitive behavioral therapy on this side here, weeks before he goes into that room with this naked woman that he's never seen before. Well, how do you expect him to maintain himself in there? He can't. The whole setup is looking for a it's just not working out, and you want them to want to do this again after they do this. You don't want her to dread going back at it again, or him to be like, not being able to, he doesn't want to spill seed. It's just terrible for them when they do that. I'm telling you, they come in here and they can't do it. They don't know what's the matter, especially if he's a big boy and she's little. And one guy actually told me he didn't want to lay down on top of her. He's afraid he was going to crush her. I'm like, okay, okay, well, let's just do that right now, you know. And that's what they did. And her first response was to put her arms around his neck. When they left, I actually cried. It's like, I don't understand why this has to happen, why we can't prepare them properly so they can actually get it together and do this. We must do this. What? Anything? Tell me. What do you have to say? Rifki.
Everyone picks on me.
Oh my God. What do you
Um, I'll
say?
tell you one of the ways I've approached this. So to give you some context, from about 7 or 8 first the first 8 or so years of me teaching Kallah, I worked exclusively with like a ex-Hasidish girl from Williamsburg or Berlberg. Um, not I wouldn't call them like off the derech, trying to find their own path, really. Um, and a lot of them had trauma of various types. And so I would kind of talk about things in a playful way. So if you guys know any like secular references, like there was like a movie named Love Shack or a song named Love Shack or something. So I title all of our classes, all of our sessions with like funny names, like men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti, and like Love Shack or hot tea, just like funny things for them to look forward to. One of the things that I do about men and women is we talk about their core differences. So men have, they're stronger usually in the trait of logic. I talk about like the brain, I talk about the body and just like the size of the body. And historically, men have been the hunters and women have been the gatherers, not saying that that's how they have to be, kind of thing. And then we kind of work into other things like immunity and then the body. So I'll talk about like the breasts, right? Breasts are used to feed babies, and in many cultures and in our culture, men are also attracted to them. And then, we'll talk about different hormones. And then I think I also at some point in that class talk about intimacy, um, like body and intimacy. A lot of people and like from that kind of background they have like this dirty kind of association with it.
Yes.
So we'll talk a little bit about the differences. Like, mitzvah una is really based on desire, and you know and we go through different sources really with that, and we really, with the goal being that intimacy is that state of closeness between individuals. right? And that it's two people becoming one, back to that androgynous creature that we learned from about in the Torah.
Okay, and Rifki, what do you do after their let's say experience of marriage doesn't quite coincide with all of what you just said, and they're confronted with their anxiety and their uh, the tension that they have around the subject? Like, do they come back to you, and do you get a second chance after they get married to talk to them, or is there, like, how do you set that up? Do you have sessions after?
Yeah. Yeah. So I teach a minimum of 12 classes to every girl.
What do you say?
I teach a minimum of 12 classes. I will not teach someone for a minimum of less than that. I usually end up taking them to the mikvah. My husband and I usually end up walking them down the aisle. I have some connection with them. He's a chassan teacher for Mikvah USA also. Um, we both do classes before and the classes after. So I'll do a class, like formal classes that we put on the calendar.
Yes.
Um, and that will be one at 3 months, 6 months. I think I also do a 9 month. And then I do like a full refresher class. I offer them once a year after that. That's like, I think it's 3 sessions.
Okay.
Um, but throughout my classes, we usually hit on intimacy and sexuality. I think I have like 3 full classes dedicated to that throughout the 12 minimum classes, but I don't have them at the end. So usually I'll have them at like different parts. I won't do it like right before the chasana, like we build into things where it's applicable.
And does
I
he,
mean, I'm curious what other people do because I'm here for professional development and like learning from others. So
sure, and your husband, does he see the chassan as well as when you see the Kallah? Like, is this something you guys do together? That's so good. That's perfect. That's perfect.
um I mean that's usually like a best case scenario. We like to do that when we can. Um, but if not, I partner with a lot of chassan rabbis here in Brooklyn. So because we know that like how the other person works and like the type of people that they work well with, we have like a referral system.
That,
Um,
that's great.
yeah, and my husband also follows up. So like we'll have couples over. If they're local, we'll have them over for Shabbos or Yom Tov. We keep inviting them. Um, I'll send them I mean, I really shouldn't do this because this is like babying them too much. I'm sure the other college teachers will laugh about this, but right before the wedding, I'll send them like a friendly reminder every morning with like a cute quote or something about their badikas, and like then the morning day of like the wedding. And then also for the first 2 months when they're married, we celebrate when they become a nida, and we talk through the nida experience on WhatsApp. Like we go back and forth about, and I call that class nida festivities because it's a time where you can, build closeness in other ways. So again, my classes are a little bit more on the playful side, I think. I mean, they're serious, but they're more because I teach a certain type of girl who
Yeah,
needs a certain approach.
right. Yes, you'll turn the other ones off. Yes, yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So if I were to go to like a base Yaakov girl and, say like romance is like the love language and let's play two truths and a lie, she'd be like, what is this? You
Yes,
know?
yes, it's almost like nowadays it's so many different kinds of girls coming because the overexposure level, depending upon the
Right.
level of overexposure, it's like, you have to come from overexposure to be able to deal with overexposure, I think. That's the reason I'm also doing this, because I think that a lot of people, women who are college teachers, don't quite feel that they could settle into the sexual side of the subject because it's not really coming natural. So they kind of forego it. And then it's just,
Yeah.
yeah. So so do classes, do courses, this is great that you do this. You need to set this up. and you need to do training and teach this. Do it.
I have in the past. I just don't have, because we work full time in Kiev, I don't really have so much time to dedicate to that. So right now I only teach like 2 Kallahs a year if I have the time for that. I used to teach much more, but it's not my biggest priority in the moment.
Uh-huh. But your husband does. He's
Yeah,
doing,
yeah, yeah. He works with guys. We also work with like people from very secular backgrounds who've like never heard of Shabbos or kosher, but they're Masad or Kedushin. Like they became not from, but they came in through like Mayor or Hillel or one of those organizations, and their Masad or Kedushin won't marry them unless they've, have their certificate that they had a class and they went to mikvah. Um, so yeah, I'd say like the last few years, we've really more been working with that kind of group. Has been
uh-huh.
more the shift, but yeah, it's
Oh, that's great.
really been interesting.
You come across girls who have already been together with men before? Is this what you're talking about? They've had relations already, so these are the types more so that you teach? Yeah.
I wouldn't say more so because it's like when people talk like I'm a Bolshevik myself, so it's funny when I see both sides because I'm married to an FFB and I've been in this world for quite a while now. Um, it's interesting because people assume that someone who didn't grow up from has been around the block, but oftentimes that's not the case.
Yeah.
They have probably worse, if not less, sexual knowledge and abilities than not abilities, but less knowledge. Maybe they're overexposed, but because they were exposed from such a young age, like it's in one ear out the other, like they don't cop. So I mean that's really what I see with girls, and they're just like you mentioned something about orgasm for a lot of the couples on the first night or just when they're married, like they don't know what a clitoris is, they don't know vulva, they don't know these parts, they don't know that they exist. I remember having a girl who had been living with her cousin for 4 years. They met in college and then they were engaged. And she had never heard of these words before. And she knew she had like a few holes down there, but she didn't know where they were. Like she knew there was like the vagina hole or something where the blood came out, and then she knew she had like a poop hole, but she wasn't really sure like where the pee came from. Like she just assumed it came out of like where the blood came out of. Um,
Someplace.
yeah, so yeah, I mean it's really interesting because it's not just sex education, it's body education, and women who men and women who grow up secular don't always have sex ed in the classroom. Not all schools require that. So we can't really just like assume that people have the knowledge, which is why I think it's so important, like you said, that college teachers are that first point of reference for a lot of them. And if we come about it in a way that's very authentic and very like, I don't
Real.
want to say playful, but just very real about it, I think that that creates a safety net for them that like, oh, okay, so they've had awkward experiences too, and like, oh, this was new to them. They also didn't know that when they were getting married, or they also didn't know this. They also had to learn this is a lot. So it's not just me, right?
No.
It really normalizes the
Yes.
experience.
Yes.
And I think it bridges that gap in a sense that makes it a more attainable, um, I like to call it the system of family living, right? Like the system of Jewish living kind of thing.
What do you think about the fact that there's no sex ed in the graduating classes of the yeshivas or the Beis Yaakov? There's no classes being given, and these guys are going to start dating. And
Right,
I got to see when they got let out of the box, or should I say the bubble, because I
right,
had a school in Israel, and I would see what happens when there's no more restrictions and there's no more nothing.
right.
And it's just that, like I actually went into a school, a high school for girls. And out of about the 40 kids that were in the class there, only 6 were taking notes. The rest of them were jumping around, wandering around. I think this generation is totally spaced out. like
Mhm.
they're very, very hyper. And I think that if we don't um, tend to them, I really do think that this is a very large problem that we all have here. And people like you should definitely, you have a talent you can teach. I think it's a great thing for you to do, to teach. And then they'll teach. And then maybe somebody, like you're not going to fix the world, but you could,
Right.
like help it a little bit here. Yeah.
Well, Core's doing a lot in that space where they're, you know, first of all, having just that free space where teachers can learn. Um, I helped actually build Core with Eliza, what's 8 years ago, maybe longer than that, when we were first building all these networks on moving to a what's from Facebook to like WhatsApp. And one of the pieces of feedback that I was getting from a lot of people was, wow, like I've never met someone who teaches at secular Kallah, or I've never heard that psach before. And oh, I didn't even know that was something you ask a Shaila about. So it's really an incredible resource, not just for networking, but like growing our own knowledge base and knowing that there's so much more out there. There's always a Shaila to be asked, right? And sometimes I think one of the challenges I find, not now, but one of the things I used to find was that you kind of just assume however you're taught through whatever method that is. So whether it's like the is it the Eden Center or Tehillah Abramov or Rachel Goldbaum or whoever it is teaching a course, that what they're saying is Bible and that's it, right? For applying to every kala and every situation. And I actually trained with Rachel Goldbaum, and one of the things that I think is very healthy that she always promotes is that, you always have to be aware of the person you're teaching, and meeting them at their level, which is obviously a very important concept in Yiddishkeit and Chinuch.
Do you teach her how to actually have intercourse?
Yeah, of course. I show photos. I mean,
Or
I wish I had pretty diagram like this model that you have. That's very cool.
no, no, but I mean, I'm talking about actually, like, okay, so let's say we have a clitoris and it's over there and where it's located for a certain reason because, um, like, okay, so let me just try to go through this and see if you could kind of, if you think this is something that you could use. If you explain to them, let's say these are her legs, okay,
Right.
and he's facing you, all with his arms on either side of your shoulders. And his knees are here. He's sort of in a woman's push-up position with his knees on the bed and his toes are kind of going to propel him vertically forward. This is if he's in the proper position. You could see that him leaving that position is going to throw him off if he has to take himself and put himself inside there. That's when the seed gets spilled. So if we could allow him to have his position and we could allow her to stay in her position, she could then take him and put him in. Now, wait. Now, once he's in there now, let's just assume they had some foreplay. Let's just assume she was able to have an orgasm, because she started herself off. Let's just assume the best, okay? She could have a multiple orgasm. This is how you do this. So he's in his position, she's in her position. We're talking about the missionary position, okay? And now if he goes in this way, he's nowhere near her clitoris because it's all the way down here. He's going in here. Here's her clitoris here, but she's like laying like this now, right? So
Yeah.
what you actually want to do is get a pelvis tilt from her so she can lift this up. And you want him to come in like this. So he's massaging actually the clitoris that's already aroused in this vertical position. How is that working? If she knows what to do with her legs, most college do not. They tell me what they do with their legs. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, what are you on his back for? That's just going to bring him directly straight down. Or you got your knees bent. That's doing nothing. you need to take your legs and put them around his thighs, and your your feet need to be on his calves, and you need to pull him in. By pulling him in with your feet down there and um, using counter pressure on his thighs, you will be squeezing internally. He'll like that. You'll do this after he's already in there, right? But they need to learn how to have control over the pelvic floor. They need to have control over the entry, the way he enters, so it's not like this massive tear and all of this kind of stuff. And and he needs cognitive behavioral therapy to work with his imagination to be able to achieve what he's actually going in there to do, which is to get to know his wife and her body. You know,
Yeah,
you'll have an
it's really
orgasm.
challenging.
You'll definitely have an orgasm, but okay, not in 4.5 minutes. It's over before it starts. He needs to learn how to wait and slow down. He shouldn't get undressed. He should be in a t-shirt and briefs. He should be with her and let her go at her pace. He shouldn't remove anything. Let her remove whatever she wants to remove. He should, have access to, let's say, external parts of her. He should never, never do any of that to her at all. She should be responsible for removing whatever she wants to remove on either way, not him. And he needs to be patient and wait. And God forbid if he sees something that's not something he expected, he shouldn't say anything about it right then and there. It's like, come on. Well, he has to be taught properly, and so does she. I do think that this is something that you could do. It sounds like you could definitely do this really well. And I think you could train and teach other people how to do this. I do.
I don't know how my husband approaches it. I know he does discuss like specifics on like what's comfortable, like really being like in tune with the girl and like letting her kind of taking the lead on the wedding night. Um, I don't, I can't see the faces, so I can't see the reactions of the other teachers on here, so they're probably gonna laugh at me. That's totally fine.
I can't
Um,
see them either. I can see
yeah,
you.
I mean, there have been girls that I've learned with. I'm in my playroom, right? My kids' playroom, not my
I don't
playroom.
see it. You dulled it. It's okay.
Oh no, okay, it's all blurred. Okay, well, they have like well, we put a bed down here. It's like the only place in the house they're allowed to jump, jumping indoors. So, um, I've had Kallahs who I don't want to say like reenact the experience or like enact like what it might look like, but there have been times where they would like lie with a pillow, just to see like what that's like, kind of thing. Like it's a private space. Obviously, no one's in our basement except for me and the girl, kind of thing. And I have found that the girls who had practice, just like not even practice, but like exposure to just like the concept of like, okay, in my head, I'm gonna prepare, like we'll even turn off the lights. I'll put on like I put on something on Amazon, like slow romantic instrumental music or something like ridiculous. And I tell her, like, I do like a little script to get, to describe basically like what could the different scenario that could happen, not to get in her mind what should happen, but really like a possibility of what might happen.
I know.
And then as she's lying,
Go ahead.
we kind of talk through like what the experience might look like. Now, if it's
I,
uncomfortable, it might become,
I asked,
you move to the side or
yes, I've actually asked, would you like to try this? I've actually
right.
done, I've actually allowed, I was her, and I let her be him. Because it
Oh,
was a
interesting.
couple
Oh,
of seconds,
interesting.
so it wasn't like awkward. And after, like you say, 12 times, they already know you like a book, and they're very comfortable with you, and they trust you. They're not like uncomfortable with you. So it's like, well, you want to see what I'm talking about? And she's like, yeah, sure. What is it? Let's see. And I had the husband say something. It actually works. I'm telling you,
That's actually such a great idea. I'm
yes,
gonna
it is,
write a
but
note about that.
you have to be sure because you don't want to get locked up, or something like that. But if you can actually pull it off, it really helps for her to get the feeling of what he's stabilizing himself. She's not laying on you, she's him. Okay, what you want to get over to her is,
Oh, wait, Raffle said I teach with dolls and I demonstrate with pillow. Right. That's actually a very good idea too.
yes, you lay there on, you be her, let her be him, and just get into the actual position. And then you take your legs, it's just for a second, and wrap them around her so she could feel what she has to do. And then you guys get up. And then you sit there and it's like, do you get it? And she's like, yeah, I actually do. I do. I said, because if you don't do that, because I said to her, now lift up one of your arms now and try to pretend you're putting yourself somewhere down there. And you lose the triangle of the knees, the bent knees on the bed, and the two hands on the either sides of the shoulders. It doesn't work. It doesn't
Right.
work. When she felt that, she realized what it was. Yeah. It's really an amazing thing to just break free from that constraint of that sex is dirty and there's something wrong with it, and this whole mentality that we can't talk about it and can't say the right words for the right places. And I just like I can't get over this. Like, what is wrong here?
Yeah, it's really, I'm curious, you mentioned one of the questions that comes up. You said there were four questions that came up
Yeah, so no, let me give you
often
the
in your
question.
practice. One was
Okay, so the
about
first,
orgasm. I'm curious
let's
what,
go
what
over
the
the
others.
orgasm. Go over the orgasm in depth with it. Tell her that she has to massage the area. Explain to her that this is actually responds exactly like a penis. It gets erect. It gets hard. It actually squirts. It does like lubricate the area. It's not semen. It doesn't have sperm in it, God forbid, but it does have a lubrication ability here. You need to explain these things so she knows what she has in her body. Okay. So go over that kind of stuff there. Yeah, and explain the difference in the time frame for excitement. So just massaging it and bringing blood there, when he starts to futz around there and pretend he knows what he's doing, which he doesn't, she may be able to take his hand and press down a little bit more, a little bit less. So she may actually have an orgasm during foreplay if she knows what she's looking for. She has to know what she's looking for. Okay. So yes, the orgasm. Then the other thing is I get the body image. They don't like the way they look. And this is the that we don't. I don't like the way I look. I feel very threatened every time he touches me and my 20 pounds overweight or my stretch marks. I get this whole thing constantly. What do I do? And I'm like, hey, you know, God knows what he's talking about. Dark and tea lights. Anybody can look beautiful with tea lights. I'm 70 years old. I look great. You know, you can put these all over the place and set the room up. It comes like this. It comes like this. I mean, you don't have to get
Yeah,
red.
they have them in Dollar Tree. Not the ones that you light, but the ones that
This
yeah.
is the answer for the room. You know, like don't put the lights on, in broad daylight and like, oh, what is all of this? You know what I mean? Like this is like too much information. Like dumb it down a little bit to like seductive. Also I go over the bedroom, that the bedroom is supposed to be like, get the kids out of there. No kids in the bedroom, no computers in the bedroom, no laundry all over the bed. Like the bed is made, you know what I'm saying? Like it's supposed to be a place where you guys can go into and play in. So yeah, so that's part there, the body image. Um, Also, they ask me what they leave their body. Women want to know where they go. Like, why is it that the minute we start doing this, I'm gone? I'm making the lists. I'm, thinking about the fight. I'm thinking about all this stuff. Like, how do I stay put and be in my body? That goes back to the thing I was telling you before, about you leave your body and don't feel emotion, and you go to thought. When you're in the bedroom, you have to put yourself into a compartment where you feel and don't think. You have to shut it off up here, and you have to teach them how to shut it down and to actually feel tactile stimulation, what he's doing. what you're doing, what you want to achieve. Once a woman gets an orgasm and understands and feels an orgasm, she wants to do it again and she wants to get that experience. You know, she's not stupid. You know what I'm saying? But until she can have one of those and get actually what we're actually doing here, that this is also for you. This isn't just for him. You're not going to Mick for him. You know, this is for you. Yeah. So, and also the other one is they don't like themselves. Women don't like
They don't
themselves.
like what? Oh,
Themselves. They don't like themselves. Why don't I like myself? Why is it that every time I tell myself I'm going to do something, I don't do it? Why do I start doing things and I stop doing things? So that's like the whole commitment thing. It's like commitment. I don't know. Did you get the book? Did you actually get the book?
I have it. Yeah, this one. This
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. This book here has a lot of questions that you can use to open up conversations. Like you don't ever have to get stuck in counseling sessions. You understand? And if you could actually get them to do the book, like I've had couples do this on date night, and
Hmm.
it's like you can actually get the misalignment and where they're going off in the relationship. Here's a course, like about, I don't know how many chapters in there. I forgot I did this a long time ago. You got 12 sessions in here, one on commitment, one on this, one on that, one on this. You could actually have them do homework, email you their answers. They could do them privately themselves. And you could actually start the sessions knowing what you're dealing with and why he thinks this and why she thinks that. And we could start from there as opposed to the whole thing going all over the place. And it's just getting, everybody walking out of there ready to kill each other. It's like you're in charge. And this is what we're doing. And this is a course on how to live cooperatively together in life and how to get through hard stuff. You can build on this. It's not perfect, no, but it's definitely all here. It'll help you do it, you know, and you could charge money for this. People will pay you for that. You don't, maybe, I don't know, do you charge for the training for the Tara Mishpacha?
You when
Do you,
Kallah teachers learn with me,
yeah, because
or you mean students?
no, 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 no. When I have collars, I don't charge. I don't, but I do charge after. So I don't know what your scale is here, but you could certainly incorporate the classes that you do with the chassan and the kala after, set it up where you get paid to do a thing like that. And you could use this book as a framework because it's a study. It's a comprehensive, laid out practice for you to deal with them. That's why I asked you to get the book. And I don't need the $4 from the book. It's there for you to use it as, again, a structure so you can teach them and add your own,
Are you going to be going through the book at all,
am I,
on the trainings?
look, I don't know what you guys want to do. I don't know how to do this. I mean, I've got you, and it's just me and you, and the other people are just sitting here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with
Oh,
this.
is this the first training?
No, this
Sorry.
actually isn't. It's the second one from your WhatsApp group. But
Oh,
it is
got it. Okay.
every time I notice that one person is interactive and the rest of people are doing something else, either listening or whatever. Yeah, I can't really do it like this. I need everybody on here, like actively interested in
Right.
what we're doing. Like I don't mind if
Are
you
you
want to
able
call
to
me
meet
out.
later? Because like some people, it's easier once their kids go down,
We
if they
could
have younger kids or.
we could do whatever you want. If you would like me.
I'm totally here. I just can't I can't speak freely because I am like my kids are up. So
So what do
I'm
you
totally listening and I'm totally with you.
so what do you
Wait,
suggest?
what?
What do you suggest? Like how do we go from here?
Right. I mean I don't know. It's really up to you and your schedule because it's it's your class. But I mean I'm here, I'm listening. I agree with what's said. I think that is very important. All this is very important and educating the college teachers and educating,
Okay.
yes, yes,
But
it's good.
Rachel,
I just really can't speak freely.
that's
Yes.
so how is it going to work if we need you to speak freely? Like, what is a better time to do this? And Rachel, I can't do the chat. So I don't know why you can't speak at least, but I don't want to do the chat. I do want you to talk to me because she's typing on here. So it's just not working because she's doing one thing, you're doing something else, and she's doing something else. So we have to do this at a time where everybody could be all in.
All
Tell me,
in, right, right.
tell me.
I mean, when you promote this in the chat, or when you send like the information when someone reaches out to join, you could mention to them that all cameras are on and you need to be in a private space. I've seen presenters do that.
Oh yeah, because I find that because of the subject matter, a lot of people kind of shy away from uh, speaking. Like they just don't like to talk about sex, which is a big problem since that's what we're doing. That's what we have to do. We have to get,
That's what people should be doing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
look, oh, here we go. Sorry, I have all my teenagers home this summer, so hard to get free time where I can be. I don't know what to tell you. So let's say that we meet up again when we have Elul, right? Elul's on there. We're going to finish. Everybody's going to go back to school. The kids are all going to be gone and going back. And Candace, who is the woman who you're receiving the emails from, she's here. She could reach back out to everybody again, and let's see if we can get everybody back on here with the with everybody showing themselves and being as interactive as you have been. That's you're really, really, really doing a great job. I'm very so impressed. It's really something. That's great. Totally great. So, do you want to do that? You want me to have you got, we'll try to get everybody, because there was 21 women the last time, but only 8 showed up.
Uh,
And one did,
maybe it just didn't work with your schedule.
and they wouldn't come turn the cameras
Yeah.
on. I don't know. It's tough. All right, so let's
You
say
can ask
goodbye,
people to commit.
and we'll be in touch after, everybody's back to school, and we'll put in what times are best for everybody, and we'll see if we could do this. Okay, and we'll go through the book. Actually, go through the book. The book. The book is also in
Thank
Hebrew,
you.
by the way, and it's on Amazon. Okay, what'd you say? Thank you so much. Okay, guys. Good night. Okay,
Thank you.
bye.